Hey, Phil.
Hey, Senda.
You want to talk about playing games online?
Oh, yeah, I totally do. I was thinking like maybe we could do Headspace or Flotsam or Bite Marks.
Actually, I was talking about like tips for like organizing games online. Like I know that we've played them.
Oh, yeah, I want to do that too.
Up above, you see blood-red clouds boiling across the sky. I hear that you're about to go on an adventure.
You know how Emma likes to have me running around worrying about things.
You see armies at your back, dwarven, elven, human. You see all the races under your command, and you wickedly smile back at yourself.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
And you see this light being shattered into 7 different pieces.
It's not worth the risk.
Just say it's part of my inquisitive nature.
I have been following you for a very long time.
Do you want a countdown? 3, 2, 1. Now. And you feel the ball drop out from beneath you.
The Lucky Die Podcast is a weekly 5e Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. Join our adventure every Monday wherever you download podcasts by searching for The Lucky Die.
And welcome to another episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm one of your hosts, Phil.
And I am your other host, Senda. And tonight's topic comes to us from Mirko, who in a longer post, which we did edit down, asked, "Hey Senda and Phil, Happy New Year! I've been listening to Pandas since episode 1, and while I'm sure you've touched on online play before, I don't recall listening to a dedicated episode on this topic. It strikes me that there are some major differences between one-shots and campaigns when it comes to online play, especially if it involves a brand new group of people that specifically come together for the purpose of the one-shot. A long-running gaming group that meets online and plays sequential one-shots would likely have more in common with a long-running campaign. I would imagine that recruitment is different as well. Lastly, note-taking and other documentation might differ as well for long-running online games. In any case, keep up the great work."
Well, first, Happy New Year to you as well, and to the rest of you listening. Thank you for the kind words, and we are honored that you've been listening since episode 1.
Since episode 1, since we're quickly creeping up on 200 here.
So, yes. Second, I don't think we have done a full episode about online gaming. Or if we did, it's far enough back that we no longer remember. So that's like we never did it.
Right. So here we are. We're going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mirko gave us plenty to work with. So for tonight's show, we are going to look at
recruitment, cultivating a group, and note-taking.
Yeah.
Which the last one seems a little out of place, but Mirko asked for it, and we deliver.
Like note-taking. Yes.
Yeah, we do
like note-taking. So we're going to talk about these from the perspective of online one-shots.
And online campaigns.
Of course. But Phil, first, can you break down a few of those terms for us?
Yeah, these are pretty simple, but I would be happy to. So recruitment, right, is the activity of finding players for your games. We have totally done a past episode on recruiting people for your games. That's a season 1. That's somewhere between episode
Way
1
back.
and 50. Guarantee you that we did that one.
But it is not about online recruitment.
No. But it is about recruiting for one-shots and campaigns.
Correct.
But we will talk a little bit about online recruitment. Cultivating a group, right? So on the surface, it means how we bond to a group and create connections and friendships. Mm-hmm. But at a deeper level, it is also how the group finds its play style, like how it solves problems, how it engages encounters, things like that, and how it finds its enjoyment through play. So it's actually really important. Is in long-term play, like for campaigns, it's really important that a group cultivates and finds that their own play style. Mm-hmm. Lastly, note-taking, right, is the recording and distribution of information. And in terms of RPGs, it's how we're going to keep track of various elements of the game and make sure that all players have access to them.
Yes. So in an online game, there's a few differences from a face-to-face game, right? So the most notable is that we just aren't in the same physical space. That is sort of the whole purpose, and it is a challenge, but it is also the reason that playing online is great. right? But so we're connected by electronic devices that are sharing our video and audio instead.
Right. And that is where some of our challenges come in.
Right. So you have to be in a single spot to participate, right? Like you have to be sitting at your desk where your computer is or someplace where you can have your computer to do that, right? And one of the really difficult ones actually is that sidebars and cross chatter and like basically forms of casual conversation that can happen for a little bit at the table without a problem. They can actually be really difficult in something like a Google Hangout, right? Because Google doesn't know what's quiet and what's not, and it'll just pick whatever it thinks the loudest is the loudest. It'll just put it up on the screen, and it'll make it talk over everybody else.
Yeah, it has been my experience playing online that's one of those things that is really hard to emulate. Like when I'm playing in a home game, like joking with Bob sitting next to me, right? Like just leaning over and giving him the, like, am I right? Kind of nudge kind of thing. And we get a laugh at the table or whatever. Like that's really hard to do in an online game.
It is. And it changes play because you don't get to have as much of the body language information that you do when you play in person, which is part of the reason I would highly recommend playing with video if possible, because it is
at least you have
still
that.
Much better. Yeah, it's still better. Yeah. And you can see things like somebody's taking a breath, so they're about to speak, and then it's easier to not talk over them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one is that internet and gear is, I mean, as much as we wish, right? It's not 100% reliable at all times. I spent 8 days with no internet in my house this year, last year, I guess. But like, ugh.
But I mean, people have everything from hard drive failures to having to, reload operating systems to a mic breaking. Like it's dependent on you having a computer, gear, and internet, and those things aren't always 100% reliable.
Yeah, in fact, we've had problems recording an episode when your computer went bad.
Yeah, we had my laptop.
Like we've experienced this. Yeah, like literally between upstairs and downstairs, your laptop died.
Yeah, I closed the lid and it never came back.
Never came back. Yeah.
It's bad.
Anyway.
Okay, so those are all the things that can create some of the challenges that that Mirko brings up. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with one-shots tonight, as we often do, and talk about the challenges and some of the ways that we can overcome them over those three topics that we mentioned before. So, Senda, tell us about online one-shots.
Yeah. So, as we're fond of saying with one-shots, as I'm very fond of saying with one-shots, it's temporary, right? So, in this part of the conversation, we're going to be worrying less about cultivation, and we're going to focus a little bit more on the challenges of recruitment and note-taking. And that's just because it's short, right? So, one-time deal. So, in terms of recruitment, it's kind of a double-edged sword to play online, right? So, on the one hand, you are only recruiting people for one or maybe a handful of sessions, right? If you're like, hey, let's do 3, and it's like a long-form one-shot kind of deal. Cool. It's easier to get people to commit to specific time frames and easier to find players who can commit to that shorter time frame.
I agree, right? And if you're looking for players, or if you're looking for groups to kind of get into, there are all sorts of various internet groups like Facebook groups and things like that help with this. But for my money, your best bet, if you want to play online and you like to kind of play the games that, we like to play, which tend to be more indie style games, PBTA games and things like that. Although I will say that is not 100% true. The group I'm about to name plays a large variety of games. For your online play, you should seek out the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet community is one of the most robust online gaming communities. They have a strong culture. They have their own etiquettes. They have their own system for signing up for games, the way they run games. Like they are specifically set up to do this. And so if you are interested in playing online games, that is the place I would go.
Right. I've actually had really funny times when I've had folks from the Gauntlet onto like my podcast and stuff because they do have that etiquette and they assume it. And I've actually had to Like, be like, no, please don't mute your mic. I want to record you giggling like this is a podcast.
Right. It is.
But it's like, which is great because they do that to like cut the crosstalk and stuff, right? Like they have a culture and an etiquette system for dealing with a lot of the challenges.
They do. They have worked out most of these, right? Like,
yeah. Anyway, so on the other side, people often use one-shots as a way to try out online gaming or even to try out a new game, right? So you may find people who are not as set up and savvy at playing online because they haven't done it before, potentially, or maybe they haven't done it often.
Right, which means that like they may not have good equipment. And let me be clear, because we're not talking about a money thing, right? Like some people will think like you have to have like a $200 microphone to do good online gaming. You absolutely do not. A perfectly serviceable $25 headset will accomplish this. But sometimes you will get people who are like, well, my webcam has a mic, right?
Yeah.
Or my laptop has a mic, and that mic isn't really
sort of works,
but it's not fantastic, right? So people may not have like the best equipment. They might have a poor internet connection. So it's one thing, and this is a thing that people often miss when they check their internet connections, is that lots of people have good download speeds, right? So your ability to download files, stream music or whatever is great. What is really the key when you are playing with people online is your upload speed. Because your video has to go up to the internet to everyone else. And so if your ISP has kind of crappy upload speeds, you may find that you're going to have difficulty playing with people online. And then the last one is like good mic technique, right? So if you haven't played a lot of online games or haven't had to talk to a lot of people, like for work purposes over Teams or whatever, like things like eating, where your mic is placed, like it's too close, it's too far, like all of those things, right? Those things can be an issue too. So yeah, you're going to run into those things with people who haven't done a lot of online playing because they just haven't, right? Like once they've done some, they'll get better.
Right. Then they'll know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when we talk about cultivation, this is a one shot. So this isn't something where you're looking for a lot of long-term investment, because the point here is you won't necessarily be playing with these people for too long.
Yeah. So consider for your game, like getting your group together, like in a group chat or an email thread before the game, and just like introduce yourselves, right? Like, hey, I'm Phil. I'm going to be your GM. I just wanted to I just want to throw this email out before we start playing and just, tell you a few things. Like, this is kind of my GMing style, or, these are some of the things when we play online games that we like to do, those kinds of things.
Yeah, there's this is really funny, but like part of the reason that Andy and I are besties is because when I joined her online game the first time, she sent out an email that was like, I just have some questions I like to ask people that I play with so I get a feel for who you are. And one of them was like, what's your favorite movie? And I said The Court Jester, and she was like, oh my God, it's my favorite movie too. Right.
But that little bit of icebreaker is like a big deal, right? Like it can help immensely. And, for a one-shot game, just like throwing out an email and letting everybody kind of, post for a minute or two, like, a post or two will help break that ice.
Yeah. And it just means everybody's pretty comfortable when you sit down. But you can also put a little bit of time into the start of your session, right? Like you could put up to 30 minutes, I would say. I don't think I would put more than 30 minutes. But if you want to throw in like 10, 15 minutes of just like chatter time, basically, to be like, hey, everybody, let's just settle in and kind of get comfortable with each other. Like, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then for note taking, you don't have too much that you're going to need to note and then keep forever. So the tools that you can find in pretty much any modern virtual tabletop. So when we talk about, Roll20, things like that, or even a shared Google Doc of some variety. I've done it where we're all drawing on the same like Google Doc, or we're writing things down, or we're dropping pictures in it and stuff. Like, it's really in this scenario, it's really about needing to have a place where everyone can have shared resources for the duration of the one shot, right?
Yeah, they may need to be able to see a clue. You might want to just jot some notes down during play, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes. I love Google Doc for that, right? Multi-edit Google Doc is...
Heck yes. Yeah. It's great. Anyway, why don't we move along right into campaigns then?
Yeah, so when we get to campaign play, we're now talking about a deeper commitment, right?
Yes.
And that has different challenges from a one-shot. But as again, we're often fond of saying, right? It has time on its side.
Time is on my side.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It's been a while since I got to do that.
I know. So it has time on its side. So you have a chance of working through a lot of this stuff, right? So you're not going to have to get it right in the beginning. You can work your way there.
Yeah. So for recruitment purposes, you're going to want to be clear about how long of a campaign you're looking at, because that's going to help people gauge their commitment level and if it's something that they can actually do or not.
Yeah, and when we say, like, be clear of how long you want your campaign to run, like, we mean a finite number.
Yes.
Right? Don't say forever. Don't say for years or anything like that, right? Like, and you know what? To be honest, this is transferable to real life. Also, don't say this in real life.
Yes. Don't be like, I'm going to run a 5-year campaign. Are you in or out? And people are going to be like, I'm out, man.
Yeah, that's like a huge commitment. Huge.
Yeah. Yep. So basically what we would recommend, and this also I feel is true in real life and online, right? You do the like lease with the option to buy approach, right? So if you offer a finite number of sessions, then you can open it up to continuing or concluding. And the thing about that is it means it's a finite number of sessions both for you and for them. If you discover that you really like playing with 2 of those people, but not the other 3, then you can end that. And then you can take those 2 people you really enjoyed playing with and you can go start something else.
Yeah,
right?
you can invite them into a new game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that works from all angles. It means everybody has the opportunity to decide to continue or not.
Right. What it also does is it gives you a complete story. Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of campaigns, it gives you if you know that you're going to run 6 sessions, right, it gives you a chance to have a start, middle, finish.
Yep.
And as my Gnome Stew article that's coming out this week talks about, that finishing campaigns is pretty awesome when you can do it. So highly recommend.
Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah, I highly recommend that you try to stick the landing.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's worth it.
The other thing about recruitment is, so you may still get rookies. Online rookies, I don't want to say like rookies for gaming, but online rookies who want to join up. But in this case, like you actually have the opportunity to help them. So like if they get on in the first episode and they're running like, the mic on their laptop, and they dig it, like then, you can swing them, like you can point them towards Amazon and get like, cool $25 Logitech, headset with a little, like, the little boom mic.
Or even just be like, hey, next time, can you grab your phone headphones?
Yeah,
right?
if your thing will
some headphones with
it.
a mic,
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan only because I talk with my hands a lot. Like I love my for online gaming purposes. Like I love my I have and they're wired, right? I have a Logitech headset that has a boom mic, and then it has a inline mute button on the cord.
Yeah, I mean, that's really nice.
But what I like is, and I'll just sidebar for a second. The reason I like this for online gaming is that, one, there's no batteries.
Yeah.
So there's no chance in the middle of
It's not going to die.
Right. It's not going to die in the middle of a game, right? Because I definitely don't want that to happen. And the cord's huge. Like the cord's like, I think it's like 6 feet long or something. So
Good
like
heavens.
I could get up and move around, right? I would be fine. 2, the inline mute thing is really good for Gauntlet. Like when like we were talking about the Gauntlet before,
Yes.
It makes it really easy to mute myself without having to like go to the screen and click the mute button. I can just like I click it off, I click it on, click it off, click it on. Like it's super easy. I like the boom mic on my headset because then I can move my hands independently. And as you know, that's a thing, right?
That's a thing because you're a Doppler podcaster.
Right. So it's really good for me in that way. If that headset was any good for recording, I would just use it for recording as well.
Yes.
But it's not. The sound quality is not podcast quality. It is a very solid online Hangouts quality.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, that's my thing about those. Okay. And if anybody's wondering, I forget what they are, but they're Logitech. They're blue.
Something
They're
blue.
blue headphones. You'll find them. They're on Amazon. So past recruitment, now we get into the real nitty gritty here, right? So for campaigns, right, the key thing is you have to cultivate this online group.
Yeah.
And like groups cultivate by interacting outside of play. So they cultivate somewhat while playing, but they're playing, right? But there's more to be done with a group that needs time where you're not actively gaming. And they need time to kind of connect and interact as people. They'll form bonds. They'll learn how to communicate with each other. They'll get each other's inside jokes, right? Mm-hmm. Like all of those things are how a group forms.
Yeah. So when you're physically playing in the same space, many gamers are also friends. So you have non-gaming interactions such as dinner, going out. You might have board game nights. Like I ended up at Wen's house for Thanksgiving this year. And,
I do dinner. I do dinner with my gaming groups every week.
Yeah. I'd take my kiddo over to visit Jake's kiddos and like they have a blast. Like, we are not limited to games only. It's our primary method of socialization that is consistent, but
right. Yeah. So now with your online group, that's a thing you don't have.
It's true.
So you need to somehow replicate that. And our recommendation for that is that for your group, considering having some sort of platform like Discord or Slack, where you can have multiple topics, because if you're going to chat as friends, you're going to want to be able to talk about the game.
Yep.
And you're going to want to be able to not talk about the game. And if you are doing that like in one hangout thread, like it's a mess because you'll be talking back and forth. But if you have something like Discord or Slack, you can open up channels. So you can have like, the campaign channel, and then you can have like movies and TV and like shit I did last night, like whatever it is. And people can pop in there and asynchronously they can communicate with each other. And they'll do that asynchronously like through the course of the day, right? Sometimes they'll be syncing up and actually chatting back and forth. And sometimes somebody will post something. And then like an hour later, somebody comes in and, tacks on a thing to that, makes a joke, whatever. But that activity is as good as hanging out and having dinner with people. There'll be people who are like, nothing beats physical interaction. But I will say BS, because I have many online friends that I spend 90% of my time chatting with in Slack or, even on Mumble, which is great. Mumble's an audio component, right? You can do the same thing with Discord, right? You can just have an open mic chat. But I'm telling you that I spend a ton of time with people in those kind of things, and I have great connections with people because of that. So that thing absolutely replicates the physical in space.
Yeah, and it's super good. And I realize I need to see if I can get my group off of Messenger into something like that.
Yeah, Messenger's garbage. Like you should.
It is, but we have a Star Wars background, Phil.
I mean, I talk to my mom in Messenger. Like that's
but there are stars.
Right. I'm just saying, like that's what I use Messenger for, right? Like I talk to my mom, like, hi mom, like, house things.
We have like 3 different games mushed together with our jokes and stuff. Anyway,
yeah.
So you can also, of course, add some social time into your game day, or even better, between games if it works out for your group to get online and socialize. And like one of the things that is working well for our community is that like people just hop on Minecraft and, like Phil was saying, they jump in the Mumble, right?
Yeah. The Mumble's fantastic, right? The Mumble's just audio. It's not even video.
Yeah.
And everybody just like pops in.
Everybody's doing their own thing, doing something else.
And chatting away with each other and having a blast.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. So when we get to note taking, we have a little bit more rigor, right? So we not only need something that we can share things at the moment, right? Because that's still the same need that we had from one shots. But we also now need to be able to archive and organize information about our campaign.
Yeah, so a virtual tabletop or Google Doc, the same kind of situation that worked for your one-shot is still going to work for your individual sessions, but for storing the information game to game, you're probably going to want to consider something more structured like a Google site or a wiki. I like wikis.
Yeah, I like wikis as well. I will say, if you've never seen Google Sites, it is very wiki-like. It is completely free. You just need a Google account. And I used to make Google Sites for most of my games. Like I had and had them themed out and colored and stuff like that. But they are a great place to store some info. But like you said, a wiki is fantastic. Wiki platforms are web accessible. So that means when you're all online, you can just have your browser open, right? And be able to bring up the wiki. And that way everybody can see content, but you can also edit it, and you can also, multiple people can edit and things like that. The newest version of Confluence actually has multi-author editing. Ooh. Like Google Docs. That's also pretty baller. Because wikis used to be single user. So if somebody opened the wiki page to edit it and somebody else goes to open it, you get like a warning message that Senda is editing wiki page.
Yep.
But not anymore. Like the new versions of Confluence are now doing that. So there are a number of free wikis out there that you can download, right? So you can get the wiki that powers Wikipedia, and I forget its real name. MediaWiki, I think, is what it's called. That thing, like you can download it and run it on a computer. Like if you're savvy enough to run your own servers or stuff, you could totally do that. My personal favorite is there is a free version of Confluence, which is, I think it's like up to 10 people, which is easily enough to fit a game group.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right? Like it'll fit a game group wonderfully. It won't fit a company very well, but it totally fits a game group. I like Confluence by Atlassian. It has been my preferred wiki for 12 years. I've been using it. I've been using it since before 2010 because I used it I was the one who completed the search for finding it in my previous company, got it installed, got everybody onboarded, left that company, and went to another company that was already using Confluence and was like, fantastic. Like, I already know exactly what to do here. And I've been using it ever since. Encoded Designs has its own Confluence instance. I love it so very much.
You convinced me. You converted me to the ways of Confluence. I was not initially a fan.
Oh, you hated it at first.
Oh, I mean, there was a large emotional component.
Yes. I had to kind of sway you over to Confluence, but you also...
It's okay. You did. You swayed me. I'm into it. Anyway, when Phil starts waxing poetically about wikis...
Yeah. Then it must be time for us to wrap up the show, right? So before we do that, Senda is going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yeah, on Bonus Experience, Ray and Monica are two old friends exploring gameplay and design through the lens of diversity, while also sharing some of the dumbest humor that gaming has to offer. And bubbly water, fizzy water.
And
of many brands.
And their editor extraordinaire.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget their editor extraordinaire.
Margaret is the best.
Yeah. Say, Senda, where do people reach us on the internet?
Well, you can find us on Twitter at Pandas Talk Games. You can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums, which is forums.misdirectedmark.com. And if you don't like any of those options, you can always drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark, just like Mirko did. And Phil, once they find us in one of those places, what can they do with that information?
Please send us your topics, your questions, your queries, whatever it is you can think of. We love to talk about gaming, but we love it even more if we can talk about the things that you find the most interesting. So send it to us. We'll package it up into a show, and we'll dispense our, adorable brand of information.
Yep.
If you like what we do here elsewhere on the Misdirected Mark Network, please consider supporting our Patreon campaign. Patrons of the show get all sorts of awesome things. You will get access to the bonus outtakes from the show. You will get access to the after show from Misdirected Mark. You will get our show notes. You will get into our Slack room, which I think is amazing, right? That's an online community I love very much. You can come hang out and play Minecraft with us. We occasionally like to give out goodies. I have a goodie drop planned. I just need to get Tim Jones together to get a little formatting and stuff together on that. But then our patrons are all going to get a goodie drop from Encoded Designs. Anyway, the other thing we like to do is give shout outs to our patrons. I'll quick tonight. Kevin Lovecraft, the Royal Beard, who had a very frozen beard.
It was very
Twitter.
Frozen. Yeah, but thank you, Kevin.
Victor Wyatt.
Thanks, Victor.
Victor, awesome friend and fellow Minecrafter. Glenn Seiler, who is
Thanks,
one
Glenn.
of the members of my gaming group.
Yep.
Who is an awesome gamer. I like gaming with Glenn a whole lot. Anyway, there's another thing you can do that's outside of the Patreon that is big support for us, helps us immensely, and is part of our strategy to win over the internet. Because, see, we know that if you start listening to us, you will fall in love with us and want to listen to more episodes. But our big hurdle is getting people to listen to us. And so the best way to do that is to rise up the charts in the Apple ranks. And that is where you come in.
Right. Hashtag humble brag again.
I will stand by the fact that if you start listening to us, you will keep listening to us for a while.
Well, I hope so. I think so.
I think so.
Yes, so you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or the podcatcher of your choice, because every new review that you leave really does actually help new people find the show, which is pretty cool. And it makes us both super duper happy, which is also super cool. But if you leave it someplace that's not the US Apple Store podcast store, then you should tell us about it so we can go see it, because otherwise we won't see it. There's like too many places it could be. Anyway, thank you so very much to everyone who's already left a review. We really do appreciate all of them. And hey, Phil, what does wiki mean? This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got, eh? Show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Bloop, wiki.
Click, 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 click.
Click, click.
And we're on. Bloop. Oh, you have a fancy desk.
I do have a fancy desk. I don't know what happens if I do this. Oh, yeah.
Well, I can totally hear it, so I think it's coming through your mic.
It's absolutely recording that sound.
What was that?
My desk goes up and down now. It's much bigger than my old one, too, and it goes up and down. Although I am sitting at the moment, I was standing a bunch earlier, and I have a cool standy foot thingy, which is also great.
So it is it is a standing sitting desk.
Yeah.
It's powered.
It's a powered standing sitting desk. It has little up and down arrows. You push them, and it goes up and down.
Now, if I am reading the camera angle correctly,
yes,
you are still under the air vent.
No.
Really? Are you just shifted?
That's the closet now. That's not the door out of the room. That's the closet.
Oh.
So if I get up and go, you're going to see the mess that is my...
Okay. All right. Sorry, because it totally looked like the it totally looked like the door was back at your back again. And I was like, wait, you weren't going to put the desk there. But there's a door.
I have the frigid feet.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So now you have not only a standy city desk, but
the vent is over there.
Right. So now you won't necessarily freeze.
I will freeze a little bit because it'll still come up and like get right under the desk, but like mostly I'm sitting over here instead of sitting like with my feet actually basically on top of
So you
the
still
vent.
need like a little vent magnetic.
Yeah, I sort of need a little vent magnetic thing, but it's much less, and it's much less of a box underneath to catch it. Like it doesn't have drawers or anything. I'm working on that part. My living room is full of stuff right now.
So for my view,
yes,
your door is that way.
Yes, it is. Because the other confusing thing is that I've moved one of the bookshelves behind me that used to be right here. And I've moved my harp and my piano over there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, where did the harp go?
Yeah, where there used to be an extra chair in here, there is no longer an extra chair.
So is that the wall that now shares the living room?
No, you're on the wall that shares the living room.
Okay. So the harp is on the wall that shares your son's room?
The hallway.
Oh, the hallway. Well, that's not bad.
That's my son's room.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
And that's the living room.
Gotcha.
And this is the window. And that's the hallway.
All right.
Yep. Bloop. Here we are. And I'm looking up and realizing that, like, I could now put a painting or something above this right here. That might be the other place that a painting goes. That because I used to have 2 in here.
Well, I mean, first you got to raise the desk up and measure to see if the painting will go.
Okay, that's fair. You ready?
That's never.
It goes higher than that. It's not going to get old. It's pretty exciting.
And it's one flat surface, right? Like it's an L-shaped desk. The whole thing goes up and down, right?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's pretty schmancy.
We can just...
It's late. You want to just jump
start
in?
the show. Yeah, I need to take my desk back down a little bit because it moved the mic.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go.
I mean, the camera moves as well when you do that, just so that you know. Like, the camera goes up.
I mean, yes, because the camera is on the display that is on the... Do you want to see how high it goes?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. I'm just going to sit here. We're going to take it all... Oh, keep going. Keep going all the way up. All the way up. Up. Up.
You are now officially, like, not... You are...
Oh, shit. I found where it hits my... This is too tall for me, by the way.
It is too tall for you. It's like,
also,
that would be my height.
Yes. Also, I discovered where apparently it's close enough that I hit my windowsill. So I think it might go up higher. No, I think this is as tall as it goes.
Okay. Well, you probably want to just start lowering.
I'm going to take it back down now.
It's much quieter on the lowering.
Yeah, it doesn't have to work as hard. There we go. Okay, I know that was so fun for everybody who's listening to this
if
over audio.
I mean, it makes a cool sound. I imagine it'll sound pretty cool when you run the audio through it.
Oh, I hope so. Instead of just sounding annoying.
Anyway, all right, let's get this thing kicked off.
Yes, let's do that. I forgot to bring my water in, which is sad. Let's go.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Meow.
Meow.
Bloop. Cue music. Boom, boom. Boom. So Mirko gave us... oh, I'm sorry. That's your line.
That's okay.
Bloop. Show me what you got.
Show me what you got. Show me what you got.
Yeah, I can't... what you call it? I've been through so many versions of Confluence that...
I know.
Like,
I really was angry at it to begin with. I was very angry with it.
I am far enough back in Confluence that I remember when Confluence had both... Actually, I remember when Confluence was strictly markup language and that you had to type everything in markup, and then when you saved it, it looked pretty. But shortly after, it went to... you could go to WYSIWYG or markup, and sometimes you had to go back into markup to fix formatting issues. But the newer versions of Confluence did away with markup. Now it just does WYSIWYG. And actually it's messing me up because it's starting to standardize to some of the other markup terminology. Like, oh yeah,
I was going to say it was doing familiar markup to me. Bloop. Anyway,
all right, we should stop talking about wikis.
Yes.
There's a whole bunch more wiki information for you gamers. Again, can't say enough.
So much wiki.
Are you ready?
Wiki. Yes.
Let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop.